Hey, what is up guys, MurganMan4 here, and today I'm going to be discussing my thoughts and opinions on the recent New Year's special, Resolution. So, Resolution is a bit of an interesting episode in regards of the things that it had to achieve and in the context of when the episode is. Obviously, probably the biggest thing is that it's our annual holiday special, except it's not a Christmas special anymore. Every single year since the show has returned, there's been an episode airing on Christmas Day. 2018 is the first year to not have a special air in it, because this special was a New Year's special that aired on New Year's Day 2019. And I'm not sure what the reasoning is behind that change. Pretty much all there is just rumors and theories. The episode is set on New Year's Day, so obviously this would have been planned at the very, very latest during filming, if some last minute rewrites happened. But most likely while Chris Chibnall, started writing the script. It's not very pivotal that it's set on New Year's Day, but there's enough references to it that I feel like this was definitely a planned thing and not a last minute change. So I'm not sure what the reasoning is behind that, but there we go. New Year's special instead of Christmas Day. A lot of people are upset about this. I don't really mind that much. We do have 13 other Christmas specials or something like that. So, that's a decent amount, and we're still getting a holiday special. I would be upset if we weren't getting one at all, but this is just a week later, so honestly, I don't really care all that much. The next thing of note for this special is that it's going to be the only Doctor Who episode to air in 2019. Presumably, as far as we know. There's a possibility we might get another special this year, but it has been confirmed that the next series won't air until 2020, which does kind of suck. And after the switch to New Year's, it'd be really weird if they then switch back to a Christmas special. And if there was going to be any other specials this year, I'm sure we would have heard of it by now. So yeah, for all it seems, this is going to be the only episode of 2019. So we've got another 2016 situation on our hands. Of course, on face value, it looks really bad that there's a year, a full calendar year without any new Doctor Who. But, it's true that we'll be waiting over a year, but we've been told that it will air in very early 2020, meaning either January or February. And actually, even if the next series doesn't start until the last Sunday of February next year, this is still going to be the shortest wait between seasons, aside from the wait between Series 8 and 9, since the wait between Series 6 and 7, which is really kind of strange, actually. Even if it's just by, 1 or 2 months, this is going to be the shortest wait we've had in recent memory, pretty much. So, I don't know, that's just a little bit weird. It still feels like it's a lot longer because there's a full calendar year, but it is a little bit deceptive that way. So, at least you can look at it from that bright side. But it does also mean, not only is Resolution the only episode in 2019, that also makes Resolution the last episode of the decade, which is a bit of a strange realization. It really doesn't feel like that yet, and this is the first full decade of the new series, and it's now concluded with Resolution. And another milestone it's got is the very first returning foe of the Chibnall era. Of course, we did have Tim Shaw appear a second time, but what I mean by returning villain is one that had been in the show before Chibnall took over. And of course, what else would it be aside from a Dalek? I'm going to discuss that in a little bit more depth, but it is exciting to see the Daleks back. Series 11 is the only series of the new series to not even have a cameo from a Dalek in some shape or form. Of course, it's debatable what specials go with what series. Some people might consider this New Year's special as a part of Series 11, but to make things less confusing, when I refer to a series, I just refer to every regular non-special episode. So Christmas specials or New Year's specials or any kind of specials, I tend to not include those when I talk about series. But with all that, Resolution has a decent amount on its shoulders. So how does it do with all that stuff? Well, first off, I did mention earlier that even though it's a New Year's special, it doesn't have a ton of focus on New Year's. And honestly, I don't mind that in a holiday special. I do think that holiday specials should explicitly be, set on, the holiday or have very clear links to the holiday. The Return of Dr. Mysterio from 2016 is pretty much, you would have no idea it was a Christmas special without, knowing when it aired. Because there's like a throwaway line at the very beginning, and then other than that, it's got zero connection to Christmas whatsoever. Like, the rest of the episode isn't even set on Christmas. For me, I sort of like it when the holiday is a setting. And it's not necessarily relevant to the plot, but it's just kind of there in the background. That's the kind of thing that I like, and that's kind of how New Year's is treated here. So in that sense, I think it's done a pretty good job. Now, the episode starts with this very epic opening with this narration, and there's a big battle against this creature. They split the creature into 3 parts and go and bury its pieces across the globe. And of course, we the audience know what this is. It's a Dalek. But the episode kind of treats it like we don't know what it is. I think that the original intention was that it was supposed to be a secret, because even in pretty much all the promotion, it doesn't show a Dalek. It does kind of hint at it in the trailers, but it doesn't reveal anything. Even after the Daleks were officially announced, like the only thing I ever saw of a Dalek in promotion was a short clip from the original trailer with the stock Exterminate over the Doctor Who logo. So I really feel like they could have advertised it more. But back to the episode itself, I think it's clear that you aren't supposed to know what this is going in. So I kind of wish that it wasn't confirmed that the Daleks were in it, when they never really ran with that promotional angle anyway. I do want to mention though, no title sequence? Again? This is the second time since Chibnall took over where we haven't had a title sequence, and I really don't like it. There is no reason to not have a title sequence. And I hate it, because the title sequence is such an iconic part of the show, and if you're going to remove it, you really have to have some justification for that. And in both these episodes, there is no justification for not having a title sequence. It can't even really be, that it's the running time, because every other special has managed to have a title sequence, so I just don't know why it's even being removed. At least Sleep No More in 2015 had like a valid story reason to not have a title sequence, because it was done in a found footage style. But there's just no justification here, and I just hate it, because I don't know, it's something that just pumps you up for the episode, and it immediately lets you know you're watching Doctor Who. And I love seeing the title sequence every time. It's not even a long title sequence. This is the shortest title sequence we've had, I'm pretty sure. So I just can't see the justification for removing it. Anyway, back to the story of the episode. I mentioned that there were, the Dalek creature was split apart and sent to different parts of the globe, kind of give it a more global scale. One of these custodians, as they're called, gets killed, and his body is just left to rot. And we get a cool transition where it goes to the modern day, where he's being uncovered by archaeologists. And while that is pretty neat, and I did like that on my first watching of it, it does beg the question, did this body not even get touched at all in the hundreds of years since then? And like the bag that he had that was containing the part of the Dalek creature, like he was shot by thieves who ran up to him and checked him. They didn't think to even check the bag. I don't know, I just thought, okay, that's a little bit weird. But it is kind of cool, a cool way of seeking into the modern day. And so the archaeologists, they uncover the bag that has the Dalek creature, and it ends up being reawoken. And somehow it's able to teleport the other pieces of itself back together. I thought that this would be because these were like the mechanical bits of it. But no, it was the actual Dalek creature. I could believe that Daleks can survive for centuries. I have no issue believing that. But after being chopped up, it's able to teleport its pieces back together. I just thought that was a little bit of a stretch. There could have been a better way. Like, why? I get that chopping it up is to make it seem more epic, but it just it doesn't make sense logically. Just have the creature, just have the Dalek be like seemingly killed and buried, and then have the archaeologists uncover the Dalek, because ultimately it being split up doesn't really affect anything anyway. You could remove that aspect from the plot and everything else would play out exactly the same. I do also want to briefly mention that the two archaeologists that are uncovering this, they are shown to have a blooming romance. I found this to be kind of awkwardly done, and I just didn't really like it. They could have just been friends. And again, kind of like the epic opening, it doesn't really have much of a bearing on anything. They could have just been friends and everything would remain the same. So I don't really understand the point in adding in these sorts of elements. It just makes it feel unnatural. Now we're reintroduced to the Doctor and her companions watching some cosmic fireworks. This is the kind of thing that I like, from a holiday special. The Doctor and her companions are just visiting different New Year's, and we get this beautiful shot of the camera panning around the TARDIS, and I love bigger on the inside shots. It's just gorgeous, and it was great to just see them having a good time and enjoying these cosmic fireworks and stuff. But the Doctor gets an alert from Earth of some extraterrestrial activity, and so of course they're going to go to investigate, and they happen to land on Earth on New Year's Day 2019, where the Dalek has come back to life and seemingly escaped. The Doctor's able to get a sample of it to try to examine it and see what it really is, and they go back to Graham's house so that the Doctor can get some protein from eggs to properly compare the DNA or something like that. It's at this point where we have an important subplot come in. Ryan's dad, after being absent for the entire series and of course much of Ryan's life, as we know, he shows up to try and reconcile with his son. I love the reaction that Graham has, because he hears the doorbell, so he goes to answer the door.
No.
But then Ryan goes and lets him in and introduces his dad to everyone. And they agree to go to a cafe and try and just talk and try and see if they can connect with each other again. Graham confronts him a little bit about his absence, and he really believed Bradley Walsh's performance, and it's stuff like this that just really helps to sell Ryan's character, actually, because you completely believe everything that Graham's saying, thanks to Bradley Walsh's performance. You can tell that he really cares for Ryan. And a moment that I really love is when Ryan calls Graham Granddad, and his dad just reacts in surprise, like, Granddad, what's happening here? Meanwhile, it turns out that the Dalek has escaped by attaching itself to one of the archaeologists, who's now gone back home and is now controlling her. This is an ability we've never seen from a Dalek before, but I think it's a neat addition to Dalek lore, and even then, this is a special kind of Dalek. It's a reconnaissance scout, so this might not even be something that regular old Daleks can do, but I think it's a neat thing, and honestly, I think it kind of makes sense for these creatures that are so bent on domination. And actually, see, this helps me to justify the Daleks coming back, because here's the thing, I've been an advocate for there being a break from the Daleks, and even though this hasn't actually been the longest amount of time we've gone without seeing a Dalek, not even in terms of either episodes or actual real time, I was honestly excited to see the Daleks again. Because like I mentioned, Series 11 was the first series to not include them in any way whatsoever. I did grow a bit tired about how often they appeared in the Moffat era, including cameos. I hate when the Daleks have cameos. So I was glad to have them have a break, but I was really excited to see the Daleks coming back in Resolution. And see, this is how you should do the Daleks. You shouldn't just bring them back for the sake of it and just have them do their generic Dalek things. What you should do is introduce something new. Do something that hasn't been done before. And then you have some justification to bring back the Daleks. And what Chibnall's done here is give us a new kind of Dalek with these different kinds of abilities. And something else that is done later on in the episode, it really, really helps to sell how powerful the Daleks are, because kind of like Dalek from 2005, you just have a singular Dalek. It's been a long time since the Daleks have felt this threatening, because we almost always see them in massive armies, and they always get defeated. So it's great to see an individual Dalek be so tough to defeat, because it really reestablishes them as a threat. Anyway, it's after this point that the Doctor finishes her tests and realizes that it's a Dalek. The moment we've all been waiting for. This is where the confrontation starts, and you can feel the emotion that the Doctor has in encountering them again. Later in the episode, she does say, like, she always thinks that she's rid of them, but she never is. Although I did feel like that's a little bit weird, because I can't really think of the last time that she would have thought that the Daleks were gone for good. I mean, maybe the Magician's Apprentice and the Witch's Familiar, but she's seen them a couple times since then, including 12 Regeneration story. Because it wasn't even just Rusty there were other Dalek mutants crawling around outside. So I don't know exactly why she's acting like they should all be gone still, but it's a nice moment nonetheless, and I think Jodie Whittaker acts it pretty well. So the Dalek is now using the archaeologist, I think her name is Lynn, to get where it needs to go to build itself a new suit, get weapons back so that it can properly take over the world, and in the process of getting there, they get pulled over by a cop, and it starts, controlling what she's saying, and she tells him, "You are an enemy of the Daleks," and I'll admit, I loved hearing that. I loved it. It just, it makes me so happy to hear those classic kind of lines from the Daleks. I feel like it's been a while since we've heard that, and I think it's also in part because the last proper Dalek story was 2015, and even then that was set on the planet of the Daleks, so we wouldn't have even heard that then. And of course the Dalek just kills the two police officers, steals one of the officers' uniforms, and then keeps on going. As this is going on, Ryan and his dad have a little one-to-one conversation in a cafe, and I'm in two minds about this. I think this scene was actually really well acted, and Tossin Cole did a great job with the emotion that he needed to portray in this scene. On the other hand, it kind of clashes with the epic style that the rest of the episode is going for, and it's a bit of a quicker pace that suddenly just stops and slows to a halt for this 3 or 4 minute cafe scene that's a conversation between Ryan and his dad. So that's the thing. I feel like it's a good scene. It just feels a little out of place with everything surrounding it, and it just feels like it interrupts the story flow. As this is going on, the Dr. Graham and Yaz go and pick up the other archaeologist, Mitch, and we get this great bigger on the inside scene. We haven't really seen a proper bigger on the inside scene from someone who isn't a companion in quite some time, I think. So it was great to see his response to it. And there's this little effect that I love. We go in through the doors, and you can see the windows of the doors behind it, and as the TARDIS dematerializes it, you can see the vortex in the background through the windows. It's an incredible little effect that is just gorgeous. It's at this point that the Doctor is desperately trying to track the Dalek, and we really start to see just how powerful this Dalek can be, because it's blocking every single attempt at her tracking it. Now, of course, this is stated because it is a reconnaissance scout, so it has more advanced abilities than a single Dalek, but I really like that because, once again, it reestablishes the threat that the Daleks are. It makes them a really challenging foe instead of someone that's easily defeated, as I feel like they have been in the last few years. So I'm glad to see that threat reestablished. But since she can't properly track the Dalek, she decides that they need help. And this is a moment that I am conflicted about. Because on the one hand, I really like it as a reference, but on the other hand, upon first watching, I was actually kind of annoyed at it, because the Doctor says, she makes a call and says, "Get me Kate Stewart from UNIT." And I'm like, what? Is Kate Stewart going to be in this? Is UNIT going to be in this episode? That is awesome. Because we haven't seen them since Series 9, over 3 years ago now. So I was like, alright, I'm on board for that. But then I was like, oh my goodness, please don't be a tease. Please don't be a tease. Please actually have them involved in this. And it turns out it was a tease. Because there's a bit of a joke that UNIT has been temporarily suspended pending review because of lack of financial support. And I'll admit, I found it to be a bit of a funny joke, but I was disappointed at being teased that they would be coming back and not getting them. Now that I have the hindsight of knowing that, they aren't in the episode, it makes it a little bit better. But it was a bit of a tough blow when I was first watching it, and a little bit disappointing, and I'm like, no, why tease them if you're not going to bring them back? Now, I do think that people really hating this moment are perhaps overreacting a bit, because I've seen some people being like, why would Chibnall like destroy Unit? Why would he remove Unit forever? He didn't do that. It's very specifically stated that they are suspended pending review. So it's just a temporarily getting Unit out of the picture. They could easily come back. It's not that Unit has been disbanded or anything like that. It's just currently not functioning. So it could come back, and I honestly hope it does come back sometime, because I like the organization, and they're such a deep part of the show's history. Oh, and the other thing, too, is why I was hoping it wasn't a tease, is that Kate Stewart was introduced in an episode written by Chris Chibnall. So I was really hopeful that she would come back. That still leaves me hopeful that he can bring them back at some point. I hope he does. Fingers crossed. The Dalek now arrives at this warehouse kind of area, and it's got a Dalek weapon back now from a secure location, and we get our first proper extermination, which is so great to see. I was pumped to see this happen, because the last time we had one of those was Into the Dalek in 2014. I mean, yeah, there were a couple of Movellans in the pilot, but other than that, we see Clara and Missy get exterminated in The Magician's Apprentice, but it was all a trick. So it's just really good to see this just raw extermination that we haven't seen in such a long time. And it's at this point that the Dalek is rebuilt as it creates a brand new casing. The Doctor and co. arrive at the warehouse, and we get our first proper confrontation of the Doctor with the Dalek, face to face. And personally, this confrontation did not disappoint. I felt the emotion from the Doctor as she confronted another Dalek once again. And the Dalek, not realizing that it's the Doctor at first, but I love the moment when she tells it to scan her and tells it that she's the Doctor, and you see it back up, disable the sonic device, and immediately try to exterminate her. It's an awesome moment. I also want to take a moment to comment on the Dalek's improvised casing here. Before I saw the episode, I saw pictures of the casing. And here's the thing. I wish I hadn't, because, you know, that spoiled it for me going in. But at first, I didn't realize the context of it, because I hadn't seen the episode, so I thought that it was like the actual Dalek redesign, because it was rumored that the reason we haven't seen any Daleks in the promotional materials was because there was a redesign, and so it was going to be a surprise. So I'm like, what? This is the redesign? And I really hated it, because it looked so thrown together. But in the context of the story, that's what it's supposed to be. It's built from scraps, and in that context, I actually quite like it. Of course, Nick Briggs is back voicing the Dalek, and who else would you have? He's fantastic and imbues so much emotion and anger into the Dalek voices. You can't have the Daleks anymore without Nick Briggs, as long as he's around. You gotta have him as the Daleks. So I was really pleased to see that. But yeah, I would hate this Dalek casing if it were like an actual redesign, but it's not. It's just a one-off. And in the context of the story, it makes sense, and in the context of the story, I like it. So the Dalek goes off to try and contact the Dalek fleet, but coming up is just an awesome scene. The army tracks the Dalek and goes to intercept it, as it's an unknown drone, I think is the words they use. And the Dalek lands and just demolishes them. It is awesome. It's just such a sheer show of power that a single Dalek can have. And again, this is why I think this episode justifies the use of the Dalek, because it reestablishes just how powerful a single Dalek is. The music that Sagan Akinola uses is excellent, and you just feel the fear and the terror of the Dalek and its power as it just rips the army to shreds all on its own. It's awesome. What an awesome scene. That's how you make a Dalek seem powerful. That's how you do it. That's just great. But anyway, the Dalek then continues on its way to go and summon the Dalek fleet to come to Earth. And in the process of doing this, it like shuts down all like the internet and like phone signals and whatever in the UK or something like that. And this leads to probably one of the cringiest moments in at least the new series, probably the classic series too, where we cut away to this random family, not having anything to do because they don't have like Wi-Fi or anything. And it's just so cringy and such a bad joke, and it cuts away for no reason. Oh, especially since right before it, Graham says, oh, it's New Year's Day. All those people just sitting at home on their phones. Like, what are they going to do now? And then you have to cut away to show it? No, just leave what Graham said to be the joke. Don't interrupt the story with this stupid scene. At least it's brief, relatively, but it just completely interrupts the flow and is... Oh, it's just terrible. But anyway, they arrive to stop the Dalek. Of course, the Dalek tries to shoot the Doctor as soon as she steps out the TARDIS. But there's a shield, but their plan is they lower the shield and the Doctor runs around to distract the Dalek while everyone else goes to apprehend it, and they use bits of an oven that Ryan's dad had been trying to sell and had been carrying around with him to melt the outer casing of the Dalek. I guess it kind of makes sense. It's a little bit weird using an oven to take down the Dalek. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but it gets the job done, and I'm glad it doesn't actually kill the Dalek. The Dalek survives and latches onto Ryan's dad, so they have to then use another plan. The Doctor pretends like she's taking the Dalek to the Dalek fleet, but instead just materializes near a star-going supernova and opens the doors to try to let the Dalek get sucked out, but it's hanging on, and it's a very close one. Ryan's dad almost gets sucked out too, but not quite. And there goes the Dalek off into the supernova to die. So, they defeat the Dalek, they return everyone to Earth. Ryan seems to be starting to mend his relationship with his dad a little bit. I hope that they don't leave this unexplored, that they continue to try to examine his relationship a bit more in Series 12, because if it's just resolved, then that's a little bit weak, I think. But if they continue to work at it a bit, then I think that would be good. And then we have this wonderful final shot where we have a shot of the TARDIS, and instead of it materializing, we see the background around it change into the vortex, and it goes flying off. And there we have Resolution. So, what do I think of Resolution? Well, I honestly really enjoyed it. It's got some flaws in its storytelling. Actually, I think one other thing I didn't mention is that it's mentioned that the Reconnaissance Scout Dalek would have been one of the first Daleks to leave Skaro, and possibly the first one to come to Earth, which doesn't make much sense to me, because then I'm wondering, why does it recognize the Doctor, and why does it seemingly have such advanced technology? Because the early Daleks required either static electricity or radio dishes on their backs to be able to move around. And they also didn't recognize the Doctor, even despite meeting the Doctor a couple of times before they ever left Skaro. By the time of the Dalek invasion of Earth, they still don't recognize the Doctor, which takes place over a century later than this episode, and this Dalek has been here since the 9th century, and the Daleks hadn't developed time travel by that point. So, there's a little bit of a timeline inconsistency there, although perhaps it could be argued that the Daleks' timeline has been messed about with so much that who even knows if there is a real proper continuity anymore. But anyway, beside a few logical errors like that, I did really enjoy this episode, and I think it's a great episode for the Daleks to return in. And Chibnall, I think, did the Daleks justice, and I'm really pleased about that. I'm disappointed that it's the only episode in 2019, but that's only because I want to see more episodes with this gang. I genuinely thought during this episode, I was actually upset that I wasn't going to be seeing any more of them for the rest of 2019. I was like, I want to see these guys again, which is definitely a good feeling to have. And yeah, I thought that the episode was overall pretty well done. And I think I'm probably going to give it an 8 out of 10. So, in terms of Chibnall's run so far, I think I'd put it in between It Takes You Away below it, and then Rosa just above it. So that this would make this my 4th favorite episode of Chibnall's run? I think so. And in terms of the holiday specials, let's see, maybe 5 or 6. I'll have it on the screen here so you can see where it goes. And then in terms of Dalek stories, this is where it places. And so just for reference, Dalek stories, by that I mean ones where a Dalek or multiple Daleks are the main antagonists of the story and not just having like a cameo appearance or something. But yeah, that's about it for Resolution. And that's about it for New Doctor Who for a little over a year. So soon, maybe, I'm going to be doing like an overall thoughts and opinions on Series 11. I might include some thoughts extending to Resolution as well, because it's going to be the last episode for a while. So I think I'm probably going to do that in within the next few weeks at some point. And other than that, I'm going to be having maybe some Doctor Who compilations coming out, but no new episodes to review. If there's any new Doctor Who news, I'll talk about it, but yeah, until then, please leave your thoughts and opinions on Resolution down below. And I guess that's it. Burgerman 4, over and out. I'll see you guys later.